This was the only game that was straight up broken, so I really can't justify putting it anywhere but dead last. Maybe the real reason we never got any Legend of Everfree games was because Hasbro saw how broken this one was and went, "This is what we were paying you guys for?" And pulled the plug on the webcam department till later. 12. Repeat the Beat. This game is very close to being considered broken from my experiences, so there's that. Though the thing is, I frankly found Motocross to at least be more subjectively engaging than this one, but I get that on an objective level, my disappointment with this game could have just stemmed from me being not good at it. So factoring that, I'll be fair and put this one over that one. 12th place out of 13 still ain't anything to write home about though. 11. See yourself as an equestrian girl. Rockified. Since this was just a repeat of a game they previously made, I can't put this one any higher than the original non-broken stuff, so yeah. Not to mention, this ain't even the most exciting thing they could have made a reskin for. If they want to make a reskin for something, couldn't they have made one of Dash for the Crown instead? That would have been awesome. 10. Archery. This one was generic as frick, and yeah, I guess you could say that all of these games that we covered were generic, since they are practically all games that already exist. Like a fashion game, rhythm games, image search games, but except with an Equestria Girl skin slapped over. But at least every other game let us see the skin they slapped over it. This game is in first person, so you can't even see the character you're there to spend time with, unless if you count this stock cardboard cutout of them, which I don't. But overall, hey, at least this game is relatively inoffensive. 9. See yourself as an Equestria Girl. Maybe it's a little unfair to put this in the final rankings since you didn't even get to play it, but if we did, I think this is about where I'd put it. My rationale for putting this one higher than the Rockified one, even though they're basically the same thing, is that at least this one was made from scratch and filled the whole character creator game void. Since for a franchise like this, I think there should at least be one, unlike its predecessor that just rode on this one's back. Now that I think about it, why didn't they just update this one by adding Rainbow Rock's accessories to it? Why didn't they have to make a whole separate game and pretend like they're separate games? Plus, I'm sure this game was novel for the time. Also, I like this more than the other one because it uses the show art style instead of Rockified's scary style. 8. Fall Formal Dance Off. I know I said I wasn't a huge fan of the difficulty of this game, but at least there was some new animation created for it, and at least it gives you something to do while not being completely broken doing so. Remember, this is still 8 out of 13. It's on the lower half. 7. Fashion Photo Booth. Judging by how I only had positive things to say about this one, even though it's obviously not my type of game, and also when you'd expect that it just be a standard dress-up game like the other two, is fantastic. It exceeded my expectations, and I thought the mechanics thought outside the box. However, it's not like I'd ever play this for fun, so we gotta factor some subjectivity into this list. But still, this is the turning point of this ranking where the games are getting pretty good, except maybe number 6, Battle of the Bands. This is actually playable, even if incredibly easy, but at least it gave me something to do, and at least there was some sort of story element to it. 5. Who is your VIF? There's not a whole lot to do in this game, nor are there stakes, but at least you can actually interact with the characters and they have dialogue, giving some semblance of story, which is cool. Also, this wasn't really a generic reskin of things. It seemed to have required some more thought, giving characterization to all these characters, so not bad. 4. Twilight Sparkle's Surprise Party. This was the only rhythm game out of the bunch that I found actually enjoyable and was pretty freaking good while being so. Plus, the additional mechanic of Sunset's quizzes was cool, so yeah. 3. Pinkie Pie Slumber Party. This one gave me an actual challenge, plus has replay value, in that you can replay it as many times as you want to see how high you can go, and it was incredibly enjoyable to play, which a replay factor isn't really something I can say about any other game thus far. Yeah, it does belong in my top 3. 2. Equestria Girls mobile game. Maybe it is unfair to put this in an overall ranking, so feel free to completely dismiss this one if you wish, but this is where I would put it against everything else. There's a lot to do, lots to explore, lots of characters to interact with. One of the only reasons it's not number 1 is because so much of it is hidden behind that doll playwall, when none of these other games were hidden behind anything, so that kind of makes me think I'm not getting the full scope of it. And if I did get the full scope of it without having to buy every doll and unlocking everything, then that shows me that the game doesn't have anything too cool and unique to offer to those who did buy everything. Well, if you did buy dolls for this game, at the end of the day, at least you still have the doll. But if we're judging this strictly from a gameplay perspective, yeah. So while this is a good game, I've got reservations about putting it over number 1, Dash for the Crown. This placement should probably come to nobody's surprise if you're paying attention. It blew my expectations way out of the water to the point where everything else, besides the mobile game, I guess, was a bit of a disappointment, and I found myself comparing carrying every other game to this one with everything falling short. Now, as with the mobile game, there was a story, a big scale, lots to do, characters to interact with, but unlike the mobile game, this one probably had more restrictions and limitations in development, yet they were able to make something amazing in spite of that. And that's being accomplished is always much more impressive than something with a larger budget and less constraints accomplishing a similar thing, because duh. That aside, if I thought this game did certain elements better than the actual movie it's based on, like I said, then I think this game has every right to take the #1 spot. Actually, what really takes the #1 spot, in my heart at least, are you guys. Thanks for watching. A few videos ago, I said that I'm working on a big Equestria Girls video that wasn't a retrospective of friendship games. This is not that video. In fact, this video was only made as research for that other video. In fact, the only reason I made this video, the whole thing was actually spontaneous. I was trying to work on that other video, but then I realized that I kind of need information from some of these games to really have that thing have impact without going, oh, well, in some games, blah, blah, blah. I thought it would make for better impact if I made this video first and showed you the games and showed you all the games and then referred to that thing in the, you get the point. In other words, this video was essentially research for that video. That probably gives you an idea of how big that other video is, or videos are going to be, because that thing's also going to be in parts. I don't know if it's going to succeed this video in length, but it will in information and level of research. So feel free to stick around and look forward to it. Other than that, if you're new to this channel and you watched this far, thank you. We are currently working our way through doing a retrospective of every Season 2 episode. We are almost done. I would love to have you guys along for the ride. Other than that, I just want to give a huge thanks to my patrons. Y'all are awesome. Thanks for keeping me fed. Other than that, thanks for watching. Y'all are awesome. Yeah, especially you.
Why I still believe this is the greatest season we've had in a while. Yet again, the writers are circling back to what made the show so good, coming up with interesting concepts and ideas only to twist it to make for a truly entertaining episode. Pure Season 1 vibes, and I mean that in a good way. This is a breakdown and review of Season 9, Episode 7 of Rick and Morty, Mort Gully, The Last Rick Forest. The episode begins with Rick and Morty trying to gather sap from this mystical tree when they find that it's alive. See, this guy hates
spacefarers.
I'm afraid though he has a point.
You consume your planets, then spread your sickness to the stars.
And so he drags Rick and Morty down to this hollow earth and they're reincarnated into, oh shit, well if it ain't the Amoeba Boys. That's when they're introduced to this guy, a clear parody of Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. Funny enough, he's actually voiced by Morgan Freeman's son, Alfonso Freeman. He starts off as a cozy prison cellmate that is presumably gonna help our main guys get out. Never mind. After they're killed, they find themselves getting reincarnated. He's actually voiced by Morgan Freeman's son, Alfonso Freeman. He starts off as a cozy prison cellmate that is presumably gonna help our main guys get out. Never mind. After they're killed, they find themselves getting reincarnated back into Amoeba.
Guess if you die, you start over. Good thing we hadn't made much progress.
They're basically playing Minecraft hardcore, but instead of gathering materials to progress, Rick and Morty have to evolve. So they go through mitosis and eventually become fish before evolving into these Tiktaalik creatures. I actually had to search what were the first fish to walk on land. Honestly, this moment made me want to go watch those banging history videos by Extinct Zoo. Rick realizes the reincarnation field is directly connected to the tree, so he figures the only way to break the cycle is to escape back to the surface. Now, despite being able to breathe air, Morty ends up dying after hyperventilating at the sight of all the predators surrounding him, so Rick ends up drowning himself too. This time around, they decide to evolve into spiders, and that backfires pretty much instantly. So next, they evolve wings and become birds. Unfortunately, because there are no thermals, they can't rely on rising warm air to carry them upward, meaning they actually need wings strong enough to fly their way back up. Morty then asks if they're able to make mech suits yet, referring to the many times Rick has done this, like in the episode Look Who's Purging Now, but Rick points out that birds are mostly just good for traveling. Just then though, it's revealed that the tree can still kill them down here. Fantastic. Already, I was loving this episode. It does feel like a very unique premise, even though it's a mix of Rick die, Rick Pete, with the repeated dying and coming back to life shtick, and the Ricks must be crazy, with Rick getting humbled after being forced to survive in a strange new world he accidentally trapped himself in. Now, I've been pretty transparent about how I feel toward the supposed repetitive plots this season, but this one feels unique enough in its execution. The evolution aspect gives it a completely different spin. What did you guys think of this concept? Let me know down below. While you're there, leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. Apparently almost 90% of you who watch these breakdowns are not subscribed. As always, I'm making weekly breakdowns of the season as episodes come out. I also do big character recap and analysis videos. Subscribe so you don't miss out. The next shot we see is a cute reference to that montage of Simba growing up in Lion King. Not the only time this episode references Lion King. Now that they're apes, they can learn how to climb. Of course though, Rick goes apeshit to evolve into an even stronger monkey, but Morty dies in the process, making him restart.
You lost, son?
God damn it, where have I seen this shit before? Thankfully, the guy isn't King Jellybean and pretty much tells Morty,
This is good news.
From wash to repair to trade-in and resale,
We can finally be bees.
in all seriousness, he says that the cycle of violence gets you nowhere, and instead, you should submit to the cycle. To contrast with this, Rick doubles down on violence, and it's revealed he's taken control of all of the apes. He tries pretty much every possible way to take down this tree, including sacrificing his right-hand man, Gorilla Number 3. This guy will come back later, but the tree has an answer for everything. Even though Rick looks pissed, you can tell he enjoys the challenge. Now, at first, it seems genuinely enlightening for Morty to take part in these productive cycles of life, but the more he experiences life through other life forms, the more he starts to see the futility of it all. Everything is eating, surviving, shitting, reproducing, dying, and feeding back into the same system. So the guy responds,
Well, that's what a healthy ecosystem is. Eventually, the warden will notice our piety and set us free. Until then, we find peace in here.
and Morty responds with a really interesting line.
A reformed prisoner is someone who doesn't want to leave the prison?
Now, bear with me as I mention Shawshank again, but that's basically what the movie is showing through books. He became so institutionalized that the outside world no longer felt like freedom to him. That is what I feel like Morty's picking up on. If you trap someone in a system long enough, they might stop dreaming of escape and start calling the prison their purpose or their home, which is exactly what these guys have done. I would say this is a slight commentary on the paradox of the justice system, a system that claims to rehabilitate people, but can also condition them so deeply that they no longer know how to exist outside of it. It's also why Red is able to leave Shawshank eventually, because in the end, he didn't care about leaving anymore. Now, after the guy offers him a vegetable, Morty refuses because he doesn't want to eat whoever that is, but the guy responds by saying that no one would actually choose to be a vegetable, giving Morty an idea that Rick would never come up with. He reincarnates once again, but this time he chooses to become algae, and what follows is a genuinely beautiful montage sequence. Honestly, at this point, it's become a tradition for every season to have at least one sequence this poignant. Morty does nothing, letting the cycle of life carry him wherever it wants. Eventually, he's able to become a group of trees, allowing him to finally reach the surface. For a moment, it really seems like he figured out what the warden was trying to teach him, but then that bastard reveals,
The life cycles of the guilty provide nourishment.
Oh, but that's more of a byproduct than the point of all this, right?
Because... No.
Turns out the guy's actually just a heartless monster. What I love is that Rick was watching Morty's entire transformation the whole time. You can tell he was genuinely proud of him, because not a few seconds later, Rick kills himself just to end up back with Morty as an amoeba.
Is evil, Rick? Is feeding off the cycle of death? We're all just mulch!
Damn, pretty diabolical tree.
I also love that Rick starts doing the
My little poopa!
thing to Morty again, but even more than that, I love the fact that he's smiling once he realizes what an asshole the tree really is. He might be getting some wild ideas.
I wouldn't do this, it's barbaric overkill.
Then we get
No, it's a good one.
Oh, I don't think so. It sounds familiar, doesn't it to you?
Rick and Morty come up with a new plan. They reunite everyone, including Gorilla Number 3, who is now a hyena, in order to starve the tree out. How do they do this? By isolating themselves inside a cave that is Morty. And so, for the first time in a while, all the prisoners actually find a more comfortable and fulfilling life. One where both Morty and everyone inside him can thrive and survive. It makes you wonder, though, just how long this actually took. It had to have been at least a couple of decades. But honestly speaking, time doesn't even matter in the show. When the tree eventually realizes what's happening, it's already far too late, and they jump him. This is one of the more satisfying deaths for an antagonist in the show. But you see, killing him doesn't actually bring back their original bodies. And in classic Rick and Morty fashion, they ditch everyone.
Where have you two been all day?
None ya.
Oh, my third wife is biracial.
I love the ending where Summer's studying biology and Morty tries to show off what he learned.
I think I know a thing or two about that? Nope.
I'm sorry. It's a bummer. In reality, you're as dumb as they come.
This episode could also be the writer showcasing a microcosm of how Rick lives his life. Rick, as we've seen, is someone who's constantly adapting. No matter what world he's in, no matter what threat he's facing, he always finds a way to survive. But survival doesn't necessarily mean he's free. Look at the Rick Prime situation.